Okay, Bill, what we're going to talk about today is Florida's best days behind us? A lot of people are asking that question. When I'm looking at social media, even articles, everything I look at, people like being very negative when it comes to Florida. And I know that's what gets views.
Right.
And I know that a lot of the videos that we do and I do are kind of negative too.
That's why I'm snickering. Yeah, I got
Okay. But the question is the best days of Florida behind us? So we're going to be asking some questions, all right? First of all, let's talk about the Florida brand. It's still strong, okay? I put some notes down. Low income taxes, lifestyle keeps drawing people. Most pandemic migration has cooled from the peak. So basically, everybody wanted to move during the pandemic. Everybody wanted to move here, obviously, because we were open when they were pretty much shut down.
Yeah, of course. Yep.
You know, we had some, and people are still moving to Florida, but not at the same pace as they were. And a lot of people that moved here on the spur because they just wanted out of where they are realized Florida wasn't for them because Florida is not perfect. I'm not trying to be negative, but there's no perfect place to live.
As to say, there's no perfect place to live, and I know we've talked about migration, and like on my channel, I've had comments, about people like everybody's bailing on Florida, everybody's leaving. But if you look at those, I might be jumping ahead here, so tell me if I'm jumping ahead on the migration stats.
Yeah.
Last year, it was 1.12 to 1 for people leaving and moving in, which means we had more people moving in than we had moving out. This year, obviously, we haven't finished the year, but our stats preliminary for coming into quarter 4 at the end of quarter 3 were 1.1 to 1. So we still have more people moving in than moving out.
All right, so I agree with you with that. So let's talk about headlines versus reality, okay? The headlines, I'm going to jump in a little bit about real estate. Headlines are the Florida housing market is crashing, it's burning, it's going off the cliff, it's 2008 all over again. But here's the reality, okay? There is a lot of price cuts, and tell me if I'm wrong. There is a lot of price cuts happening, but the reason why they're happening is a lot of people that went into the market had aspiration. What did you say that when they're asking for that unicorn buyer?
Yeah, they had aspirational pricing.
Aspirational pricing, and now reality kicks in.
Well, there's not. Look, there's aspirational pricing, and then there's ridiculous pricing. So, for instance, what I mean by aspirational pricing, obviously there's always a spread when you're looking at comparable properties that have sold, right? Mm-hmm. Some of them are going to be a little higher, some of them are going to be a little lower, and you try to find that sweet spot somewhere at your opening offer to the market for your price.
Right.
So you can go aspirational and go, Bill, I really want to go to the top end of the market. Like, look, I found one house that sold for this much. Let's go towards this one, right? And it's a reasonable comp. That's aspirational pricing. But then when you're like, well, I saw these XYZ, 3-4 months ago pricing, maybe the prices were higher, that's where you go wrong, or you're more pricing with emotion. From a sales standpoint of view, you have to remember to try as hard as you possibly can, and trust me, I get it. I don't know if I could sell my own house, to be honest with you, but if you're selling your house, you have to take emotion out of it because it is a business deal.
Well, that's why all the brand new construction developments, they don't have any emotions in these houses. It's all numbers to them.
It's strictly a number, and you have to wrap your head around those numbers. And if you're selling your house, of course there's emotion, and I'm not meaning to be like a robot, but what I'm saying is you have to look at the numbers and go, this is what the market's doing.
But why did real estate agents agree to try to sell people's houses at a certain price when they should have known better that it was priced too high?
Well, and that's on a very few standpoint. Not everybody does this.
Okay.
So there's some people that, will buy your listing because they want to get a listing. And then it's easier to negotiate down. Like after you've signed your contract, you can negotiate, they come and have that hard conversation with you sometimes and say, hey, listen, it's not selling. We tried and we have to lower the price. There's really nothing wrong with that. Excuse me. But what works a little bit better sometimes is to kind of get a reasonable price, but then have those conversations so that the expectation's there that, hey, if we don't meet certain benchmarks by a certain point on your listing, we're going to do this, and we need to reduce the price because the market has spoken. Your house is only worth what the market is willing to pay.
Right. So let's talk about what does it really mean to, best days behind us. We're judging it by growth, affordability, and quality of life. Different answers lead to different verdicts, okay? So are we just seeing right now, in the meantime, before I continue, do me a favor, consider subscribing. It really does help out the channel. A lot of effort does go into these videos. And if you need a real estate agent, my phone number is below. All right. Do you think we're just going through a short-term or long-term pain when it comes to like cost of homeowners insurance, property taxes, people can't sell their homes, or people can't afford their mortgages because they bought it, they bought it at the peak 3 years ago, and now they have to sell and move back to New York or wherever because of jobs. Do you think what's happening to Florida is short term, or do you think it's going to be a long term problem? And since you grew up here, have we been?
That was a lot of questions.
If you've seen this situation before, basically here's what I break down Florida.
Okay.
Homes are not affordable still. Okay, in my opinion, property taxes are still high. Homeowners insurance is stupid. Okay, and there's more and more inventory going on the market. People are selling their secondary homes, and every day you see more and more listings and less buyers. What do you think? You think it's going to be this is a short-term thing, and have you seen this happen before in Florida?
So the short answer is yes. I think this is a short-term thing. When you're looking at, you have to take what's the perspective for long-term versus short-term, right? Like, is this something that's going to correct itself slowly over time, over the next couple of years? Yes, because let's look at the root causes. So if we look at the data and we look at the number of people on the planet, or let's just stay in our country, right? And the number of people that are aging into home ownership time with the new stats and all that stuff, because it's a little bit older now, we're at one point, we're still a little bit short on houses per capita, right? So when I say that if we're just talking about Florida, people are still moving to Florida, builders are still building, industries are still coming here. I mean, there's several, just down across the street from my house, there's a new one of the several hospitals that are going in. They're going to hire thousands of employees. So this place is huge. It didn't look that big until it got some perspective. So as interest rates start to come back down, it's going to open the market up for people who could not afford to purchase and chose not to afford to purchase because of the interest rates being so high. It's really, and then same thing with inventory and sellers, right? Sell to buy. So we're not really putting on an inventory item if a house is sold and a house is purchased. It's neutral, right? Does that make sense? So I think once we get some lower interest rates, things are going to start to loosen up a little bit.
When you say lower interest rates, are you talking about the 4s and the 5s?
Good luck seeing a 4 again. Listen, think about it like this.
Okay.
Find the date outside of the pandemic and all that stuff. I'm just saying, find the date when we had a consistent 3 and 4% interest rate.
I don't remember it. I was in the mortgage industry for years.
It's kind of my point. So when you're looking at that, if we're holding our breath for something that outside of the pandemic throughout history has probably never happened, why do we think it's going to now magically happen again? When we get an interest rate for people who, because you've talked about golden handcuffs, locked in, right?
Right.
So people who do want to sell their house, but they're into one of those, like, let's say 3.5% or a 4%. Well, if you're in a 5.1, 5.2, 5.3 interest rate, going from a 4% to a 5% is not that big of a deal. You only have a 1 point
Yeah, but
spread.
going from a 5 to a 7 to an 8
Is
that's
very
crazy.
difficult.
So
Like,
let me tell me if you agree with this. Winners and strugglers. New construction and inland suburbs are doing better than older coastal stock with big insurance needs and face headwinds. So basically, the new developments and inland people that are selling their homes are in better shape than coastal people.
of course, because the flood zones, the insurance liability on those homes is through the roof. It's insane. Now, I'm sure that's going to subside over time. I don't think it's going to be anything dramatic, nor do I think, just growing up here knowing insurance rates, do I think that it's going to be anything that happens soon. We talk a good game, but the reality of it is it's going to take years and years and years and years for that to shake out,
Yeah.
if it ever does. And if you're holding your breath to wait for that magic recession on insurance, you're going to be holding it a long time, in my opinion, because I just haven't ever seen it. I mean, look at car insurance. We've had ridiculous car insurance
Oh yeah, I just
my
renewed
entire
mine.
life.
Yeah.
And it's not going backwards. It's only getting worse. You know, you get a newer vehicle with all the fancy bells and whistles and safety equipment. Oh, well, now it's your insurance is up because you have all the new bells and whistles and safety equipment because it costs more money. You know, so you're not getting a discount.
And it's ridiculous too because, you know, the car insurance, you know, like when I lived in other states and I have friends that live in other states and they're like, how much you pay? I tell them, you know, they say, oh, I paid $2,000 a year. Over here, if you ask anybody how much they pay for car insurance, they say, I pay $500 a month. I pay $700 a month.
Yeah, they don't talk annual.
They don't talk annual.
No, they talk monthly.
All right, so here's some stats, okay, that we pulled them, okay? Net domestic migration fell from 314,000 in 2022 to 64,000 in 2024. So there's still people moving here, this and that, but
Yeah,
a
so
lot
that's
less.
at like 1.12
You're right.
to 1.
Here's one interesting. Florida delisting is up 60% year over year as of August 2025. Active inventory is up 18%, but the median home time on housing right now is 79 days versus 49 days for the rest of the United States. So why do you think that our average days on the market is 79 here compared to the average of the United States, which is 49 days?
So depending on when those stats came out.
August.
Okay, so those are recent stats.
Yeah, from Axios. Yep.
Okay, so I think that because of our recent storm activity last year, I think there's still a lot of shell shock from that. And I think there's a lot of buyers kind of maybe hesitating a little bit. You know what I mean? To like, I'm not quite ready to jump into Florida. I want to make that move, but I'm not quite ready to be there yet.
But this is the conflicting information when I was doing research for this video, okay? Migration has cooled, but not reversed. So we still have a positive migration, okay?
Yeah.
But here's the thing, job engine keeps running. Florida keeps adding jobs and outpacing many states.
Yeah.
Unemployment remains historically low, but growth has moderated. Basically, we're still doing better when it comes to jobs than a lot of other states.
Yeah, we are growing.
But it's like, all right, but the housing market is not doing great, but the job
Well,
market
is it just a headline that the housing market isn't doing great? And what defines great? Just food for thought. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. Like,
it's
what
true.
defines great?
You know, who's driving the hiring? Healthcare, hospitality, logistics, constructions drive hiring. Remote work still brings income, but without office demand. So basically, people are still moving here, believe it or not, that could remote work or are self-employed and they work from their houses. So a lot of inspections I do, and I tell them, hey, listen, I got to come and check your roof or whatever.
Like, I'm working from home.
Yeah, come anytime you want.
Yeah.
I'm like, and I'm noticing that more and more when I'm calling people. They're like, yeah, I work from home, you know. Wages versus cost. Pay is up, but insurance, taxes, and housing is absurd in Florida. I agree with that statement.
Yeah, that's
Wholeheartedly. Okay?
yeah. And taxes. When was the last time you saw taxes go backwards? You know what I mean? Like, come on.
What's attracting people still to Florida? It's, believe it or not, and business climate. Pro-business policies attract relocation and expansions. Talented pipeline of housing supply decided, who to stay. Basically, what that article is talking about, like, say what's going on in New York. There was a big article on it. I don't want to go too deep into it, but depending on who wins the 5 boroughs race, the mayor race in New York City, the real estate offices there, they're saying that their phones are ringing off the hook because people want to move out of New York City and move to Florida. And that's what they're picking. They said 8 out of 10 people calling them are like, okay, you want to move and sell. Where are you moving to? Florida. 8 out of 10 people saying Florida.
Interesting.
Yeah, and these are, and what they're saying, according, if the stuff is true, what they're saying is these are people that own businesses, are affluent, have money and stuff. And they're like, you know what? I don't want to play this game anymore. I want out.
Right, and that group of people aren't as affected by interest rates, the higher insurance costs, things like that. They're just not affected like the median.
So let's look at some stats. State unemployment, 3.8% as of August 2025, a plus 98,200 jobs year over year. All right. Florida added 7,300 jobs in July. Jobless rate, 3.7%. Real growth, 1.4% in Q1 of 2025. Personal income is up 7% in quarter one. I mean, those aren't really bad stats.
No, those are good stats, but I like to hear.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk, about negative. I mean, I could just Google something, come up with something negative and spell it on here. But I decided to look at the stats of everything. Tell me if true or not. Okay, housing and affordability from sizzle to selective. Market pace slowed. Homes no longer go pending. Price discovery is back. It's a buyer's market. They have more to choose from. True?
Yeah, I mean that's clear as day. Right now, you've got inventory to choose from. On both sides, I see it from my listings and from the buyers that I'm working with right now. There's choice. We just this past weekend we went and looked at a house, and they were accepting a contract. Now I think it was on the market for 128 days, and they were getting an offer on it. Finally, after 128 days, did my buyer panic? Nope. They were like, okay, great, no big deal.
There's another one over there.
Yeah, and I can see when they're looking and they're scrolling and scrolling, and they start sending me listings that they want to look at. And then they're in that 350 to 450 range, right? That nice sweet spot. You got a ton of inventory. And it's on the list side. The contracts that came in and the one that we ultimately settled on had some contributions on it, some closing cost contributions, which is a smart move.
All right, yeah. Inventory. A lot of people are taking their houses off the market because they want a certain price and they can afford to, and they're like, you know what, I'm just going to wait. True or not true?
Yeah, because not everybody that goes on the market, I just did a video on this and I had this conversation. Not everybody that's on the market is a serious seller. And I don't mean it in a bad light. I mean it as in some people are like, look, I want to move, but I want to get this price for my house. If somebody will give me this price for my house, I'm going to go find somewhere else to go. But if I don't get it, that's okay. And they don't even have to be, outlandish in their prices.
So a lot of people, are saying to me, they're like, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm listing my house. I'm not getting the price I want. I'm going to take it off the market for a month, and then I'm going to put it back on the market to reset the clock. Is that true or not true?
It's somewhat true. So there's some rules to this. And now you're going to make me dig deep in my memory bank.
But that question comes up. I hear it all the time. I'm like, all right, you took it off the market. You're going to wait 30 days or whatever. Then you're going to put it back on the market. Yeah, I want to reset the clock because it's been 200 days.
Right. So you can. So what you can do is if it's been on the market and it's a stale listing, what they're talking about is pulling it off market or letting the listing expire. Then you have to let the system cool for a little bit, because it'll still continue to count days. And this is why I was like, this is testing my memory banks, because there are a lot of different rules.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there are a lot of different rules. If this happens, then it does this. If it's this, it's this.
Well, like I look at Zillow, it says, okay, on the market, taking off the market, on the market, like it has a historical of the house too.
Well, yeah, but that's different. So you're talking days on market count. So you're looking at like continuous days on market or active days on market. So, for instance, and a very loose example would be if the listing expired, you would have, and it stayed in the same office, then you would see two different numbers. You would see like a continuous days on market and an active days on market, because you restarted the clock sort of. This is why I say there's rules, and it shows on one side active days on market from the new listing, but the continuous days on market over here is 200.
It's misleading.
It can be very misleading.
All right, let's look at some stats. Inventory fill for the first time in 110 weeks as of October 2025. It was just, believe it or not, it fell first time. Florida medium time on contract, 79 days versus 49 days, like we talked about. Delisting, what we just talked about, up 60% year over year. Active inventory is up 18% overall as of August. Let's talk about insurance, taxes, and where the pain is. A lot of people are staying on the sidelines because they're just having payment shock. That's basically a lot of renters say, yeah, I want to go buy a house, but after they figure out the principal and interest, even at 6.25%, then they figure out the homeowners insurance and the property taxes. They're having payment shock.
Depends on the area, because I would say that certain areas around our area, let's just say Florida, I can't really speak to any other markets, but let's just say in the greater Tampa Bay area, in certain pockets, rents are more expensive than a mortgage because rents are going up.
Yeah, because the landlord has to cover his expenses.
Exactly. So it's not like those things went away. So the landlord has to cover all of those things that are going up that you would be paying, and renters are starting to go, wait a second, if they have the down payment money, they can get into a house because they're making the same monthly payment without, and they're gaining the benefit of the equity.
Right. So, here's some positive things that are happening in Florida, okay? Property insurance, they did some, modifications to it to make it easier. And now people are starting to feel those changes. When they did that reform for the insurance.
For like the hurricane insurance and the
the frauds and all that stuff.
Yeah, and think about that.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Things are slow. That was like 5 years ago.
Yeah. And now believe it or not, more insurance companies are moving in.
Yep.
They're also now working on taxes, on property taxes, exemptions. They're talking about, like, one of the proposals just came out that I just read before we did this video is until they come up with a permanent solution, they're thinking about giving $100,000 for primary residence deduction.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I saw that they were starting to put out their proposals now to go to referendum.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Is Florida the perfect place? No, but hurricanes have always been here. The heat and humidity has always been here.
Yeah, it's like, come on.
Okay. But
the alligators have always been here.
After me looking at everything and just looking at the actual stats, and I keep going down the stats avenue, but I'm like, you know what? Job market is not that bad. Insurance has been a pain forever. Property taxes, they're working on it. I'm not saying that they'll come up with a solution, but at least they're
trying.
They're acknowledging it.
Yep.
The weather right now is beautiful. So they're overdeveloping in certain areas, but you could just drive like 20 miles away from here and it's underdevelopment. So yeah, certain areas they're overdeveloping. I did a whole video on that. But my opinion, the best days of Florida in some areas is behind us. I'll throw a quick example, like Clearwater. On the last video, I said Clearwater Beach. They ruined Clearwater Beach. All the mom and pop shops were gone, the good restaurants. They built these big hotels and franchise restaurants and all that stuff. So I think the best days for Clearwater Beach is behind us. But there's other areas that are now coming to pass, like areas in Hudson, where developing. They have the big development over there. They're building the marina. I think the best days are ahead in those areas because they were pretty, down.
Down, yeah. It's about time. Yeah, they needed that. It'll be good.
Gentrification.
Gentrification.
Gentrification. So basically, the hurricane wiped it out, and now people are investing money in their building with that.
Right.
So, what do you think? Florida's best days behind it, or behind us, or ahead of us?
No, I think we're fine ahead of us. If we want to be, we can't always live in the past.
Right.
You know, that's a kind of a bad way to look at things. You know, looking to the future, I think, is important. And no, I think Florida's, you know, still got some hidden gems out there. If you want to live in the past, there's plenty of places you can go to live, and you know, out your final days.
But there's definitely certain areas that the best days are behind them.
Yeah, I mean, the days of Clearwater Beach, to go to your point, you know, I grew up over there. So, like, the days of Clearwater Beach with the mom and pops and all that, I mean, you came here on the tail end of it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there were barely high rises down there. It was absolutely gorgeous. But again, it just depends. Like, it's got more of a Miami feel now.
Yeah.
You know? So a lot of people like that. So, you know what I mean? It's just different strokes, I guess.
For different folks.
Yeah. So I don't know. But no, overall, I think Florida's still a great place to live. It's still a great place to move. And every place that I can think of has some sort of an issue.
Yeah. Anyways, that's today's video. Do me a favor, consider subscribing. I know I keep saying it. I don't like saying it, but I say it because it's really important to the channel. It helps the algorithm and everything. And remember, if you need a real estate agent, just my phone number is below. And watch this video right here. I picked it out just for you guys, and I'll talk to you in the next one.
See you on the next video. Thanks for watching.